Welcome back to episode number 10. If you have made it this far into the podcast process, thank you so much for joining me on this extravagant trip and trek through space and time in which another straight white man with a podcast. Sorry, I'm already mumbling and stuttering over my words because let me do a little reveal here. I have myself a nice little gin and tonic. It's spring. I saw some cherry blossoms on a tree that probably wasn't a cherry tree. Explain that one, science. Explain that one, atheists. All right? I saw flowers on a tree and I was like, you know what? It's time for gin. I love gin. I'm a big fan. If I go out to a bar and they have a gin gimlet on the menu, I'm gonna get it. It's my favorite cocktail. I only drink them in the spring because it reminds me of spring. It reminds me of flowers. It reminds me of throwing ball with my pa in the front yard growing up. Reminds me of throwing the old pigskin out with my old man, with my old pop in my backyard. Dude. So I have myself a nice Ginny Weasley. I have myself a nice SC Jensen, a family company. I have myself a nice gin and tonic to enjoy my ramblings and to help ease the stress that is podcasting. As soon as the light goes green, the light doesn't change color. That's a little backstage access for you. The light just stays one color, but as soon as I hit record, I get nervous, all right, as you may be able to tell at this point in time. We still have our massive metallic straw. Am I drinking in iron? Am I drinking in silver? Probably. But you know what? Can't get any worse than I'm already at, all right? I wasn't really sure what this episode was going to be about. I have a couple things to discuss. I'll give you a brief life update. I'm sorry for last week not posting a podcast, but you have to understand, typically Sundays and Mondays and Tuesdays are my recording days. I select one of them. That's typically when I sit my dumb ass down in front of the camera and try and speak for an hour. Sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't. But unfortunately, last week, I, some of you may know, my 9 to 5, my Clark Kent per se, is I'm an engineer, and along with my engineering job, I have to go what I call out into the field. It's where instead of working in an office setting, you have to physically go out to a project site, conduct work. I'm gonna try not to burp into the mic. I have the camera closer. I don't know if you can tell by staring at my face. I also have the microphone closer. Folks, the quality's getting better. All right? The quality's getting better. Nevertheless, I didn't put... All right, start the counter. Nevertheless, counter. Oh my gosh, you can really see my crow's feet. Looking like pterodactyl claws. Looking like Quetzalcoatl hooves or whatever the hell they had. And I hope I said that correct. I'm pretty sure that's the largest bird from the dinosaur era. Maybe Cretaceous, maybe Mesozoic. I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure the Quetzalcoatl is the largest flying mammalian, whether or not it's a dinosaur or not. All right, what are we even talking about? Oh yeah, I was out in the field, so I didn't have the opportunity to record. I apologize for that. I'm holding my beverage while I'm talking. Let me set that down for a second so I can get serious. I was out in the field. Sunday I was, actually Monday I was flying back for something, and then Tuesday I was driving to the field, so I was unable to record. Yes, I was unable to record. And then also, because I was out in the field, I was unable to attend a concert that my friend was hosting, which was a bummer because I was really looking forward to meeting him. We've been mutual followers on the internet for quite some time. He's a really nice guy. Didn't get to meet him, which was a bummer. And that, honestly, that happens quite a bit. I was supposed to go on a podcast in a week for one of the Barstool Sports guys, Joey. Had to cancel that because I got to go out in the field again for a good stretch of days. So sometimes, my two work lives conflict, and that's a bummer. But you know what? The engineering job pays the bread for now, so that one's going to take precedence no matter what. Plus, I'm afraid of the project teams, and I don't want to get yelled at by engineers because they're scary when they yell at you because they pierce you with these eyes. They look deep within your soul beneath the beneath the surface. They get their little talons inside of your brain. And every part of your brain that's ever told you that you're not good enough, they somehow trigger that. Not anything against them. I don't think they do it intentionally. It's just how I react to a superior telling me something. They surgically pinpoint the parts of your brain that make you feel insecure and unqualified, and they just they just tweak that a little bit. And that, so whenever I get feedback, whether it's good or bad, I that part triggers in my brain and I get scared. Also, I don't know if you guys can tell, but I typically talk with my hands because when I do the YouTube thumbnail, because I don't know how to do YouTube thumbnails yet. In YouTube, it'll auto generate like a thumbnail for you, and so they typically, YouTube for some reason picks the ones that show me doing something crazy, and so I guarantee you this might be it, the thumbnail, and so that's why I talk with my hands now. I have to talk with them in camera so that I can get a decent thumbnail, so you don't just have to look at our flyer. Um, so so anyways, yeah. Spring is upon us here in the beautiful city of Philadelphia. It's hitting about high 50s, low 60s. Today was about 68, but overcast and cloudy and rainy, so I didn't quite get to enjoy it. Um, but yeah, the weather's changing, which is nice. Winter felt like it was never going to end, and now I'm excited. We're going to continue podcasting, even though, and some of my friends, I put on my Instagram story today, I'm recording this on a Monday. What do you guys want me to talk about? A lot of it, I'll get to it later. A lot of it, was like, talk about miso, talk about this, talk about this, talk about this. A lot of it was just sexual harassment, typically what it is in my comments, which somebody asked me to address my comments. How do I feel about them? I probably will do that, even though I do it all the time. But one of my friends said why men shouldn't have podcasts. Listen, you're right. You're absolutely right. I'm contributing to a growing problem, a problem that's probably never going to end. And you know what? All I have to say to that, like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe. Give me 5 stars. Eventually, I can get to a point where I can have guests on. I don't quite know how to do that for equipment wise. I don't know if I need a mixer. I don't know if I need additional software to block out each other's voices so it doesn't, like, you can't hear the feedback from the other microphone, something like that. So until I get to that point, it'll be a solo pod. Maybe I'll have some Zoom guests on. But part of what I want to do with this podcast, I'll say maybe 2 years from now, if it keeps growing, we're almost at 10,000 followers on Instagram. Hey, we're paying the bills, folks. I haven't made a single cent. I've actually spent close to like $30 a month with equipment, software, other stuff. I'm spitting everywhere. Oh my gosh. Let's reload those spit glands, huh? Let's reload on that saliva with a little Ginny Weasley going down the hatch, real nice and smooth. Springtime. So yeah, I'm still losing money. So I am losing money. But nevertheless, we are full steam ahead on the old podcast. I apologize for contributing to the epidemic. I promise once I get the equipment and the know-how and maybe the production assistance for having guests on, I will. I will have women guests on. I will have men guests on. I will have every guest in between. I don't care. I will have whoever wants to come on. That's not true. I will probably do friends and family first, and then maybe branch out and reach out to people. But until I get more than 5,000 views on a podcast, apparently I can actually like pitch my manager was telling me, because she's the one who told me to start this and was like, you got to get on this. She said that like once you hit about 20,000 streams, I realized I forgot to plug in my laptop again. Give me 1 second. I don't know how to edit, so you're just going to have to sit for about 2 seconds here. All right, I'm glad I didn't just die in a fire. I'm glad that didn't electrocute me. Also, I'm wearing I'm wearing some track pants. I'm not going to get up and show you because I'm worried that you might see what could be a moose knuckle or a camel toe or a deer ankle. Maybe like a caribou phalange A little bit smaller than that. Maybe like a rat finger. Maybe like a rat finger. I'm worried about you seeing that. I'm pretty sure these are women's pants, but boy, do they fit me nicely. And when I say nicely, I mean snugly, so that you can see the capybara foot. You can see my full business in these, which is why I don't wear them out of the house, except sometimes to the gym, and I wear a long shirt to cover said business. What was I talking about? I don't know. I don't know what I was talking about. Um, hmm. In order to pitch my podcast to streaming platforms, podcast essentially like a Netflix for podcasts, where I can basically they would take my podcast on. I could potentially work. They would have in-house advertisements that I could put within the podcast, so I could start making money. Typically, they have in-house studios, so I wouldn't be in the comfort of my standing desk, sitting like a lard ass at my standing desk that I almost never stand because I forget that it's a standing desk. And I'm definitely getting office chair butt. Nevertheless, that would be they would basically put me in a studio, provide me with resources to make this a little bit more of a high quality podcast, which is something I desperately need because right now I'm running a real mom and pop shop, a real run of the mill, just kind of like whatever I got going on. And we're making it work. People seem to be liking it. I have to get to about 20,000 streams per podcast episode regularly. I am not anywhere close to that. I'm about probably 10,000 streams per. No, not even close to that. I would say maybe 7,000 per episode, including YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Eventually, I might branch out to other podcast streaming platforms. I don't know what they might be. I don't know if you guys put it in the comments if you want me to put it on something else. I need to eventually what I need to do, and I might have my sister help me out with this because she's bored as hell. She's pregnant as hell too, and she's sitting around. She's like, I need hobbies. Boy, do I got a hobby for you. Does it pay well? No, but it'd be mighty helpful. Or if you guys want to make edits of the podcast, I can't pay you nothing. But if you want to put them on Instagram or TikTok, I'll repost them. I'll retweet them. I don't know what the Instagram and TikTok equivalent of that is, but clips of the podcast that make you laugh. And that way we can get the word out. And then that way I have a TikTok account set up for the Happier Pod. I think it's at Happier Pod or something like that, where the intention is to splice up the podcast episodes and put them on TikTok. Eventually I'll get to that point. A little busy right now with work and all the stuff going on that I got, and I'll talk about that in this episode. But yeah, that's kind of a brief life update, I guess. To talk about New York, that is still the plan. I am going to be in my place here in Philadelphia until June 28th, and that's it. We're cut off. And so I did get the help of a realtor. She's been helping me. She's been sending me a couple of options, just like, hey, within your budget and your time frame, it'll probably be something close to this. Here's what you'll have that you want. Here's what you'll be missing out on. It's a lot of stuff that I kind of figured, not going to have in-unit laundry. It's probably going to be in building, which is fine. I just don't want to take my dirty, nasty laundry that smells like carrots and Funyuns to the streets. I don't want to be lugging around, a laundry basket that reeks of gym socks and 42-day-old ramen. You do the math. Why is it sitting out that long? I don't know. But that's one of my must-haves. Also, one of my must-haves for an apartment is windows. I would like to see the light of day. I don't anticipate on being sent to a padded room and a straitjacket for at least another 10 business years, so I would like to have windows. I would like to be able to see the sunlight or the overcast or the melancholy of overcast or the moonbeams of midnight, if plausible. That would be a must-have. So, it's been going great. She's been super helpful. I don't know if she listens to the pod, but she's been great, and I really appreciate it. Part of the realtor process is I have to send her a bunch of documents that I'm really behind on. mostly because I don't know where to find them. Oh, I haven't done my taxes yet. Shout out to Spring. If you're going to commit tax fraud, do it now, folks. Do it now. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to I'm not going to commit tax fraud. Just kidding. My mom would beat my ass. My mom would beat my ass. She'd be very upset with me if I didn't do my taxes. But I haven't done them yet, and I have less than a month. So that's a bit on my update with New York. The plan is to move there probably early June, potentially late May. I have to talk to my um, senior management at my engineering job. I've talked with my supervisor. She's okay with it, but we also have to get the okay from senior management. So we'll see how that goes. And with that, let's keep going. So overwhelmingly, the biggest thing that people wanted me to talk about was miso. I don't know if you guys can hear my laptop, but it is screaming super loud. It sounds like it's going to explode, which would honestly be very hilarious if my laptop just exploded in the middle of a podcast. I would have to, try and make a joke out of it as it happened. Be like, oh my God, it's a good thing I didn't take that on an airplane. Or, something like that. Um, but yeah. So the biggest thing when I posted, what do you guys want to hear about on the podcast was overwhelmingly miso. Um, I would show you what she's doing right now because she's being a little cutie pie off screen, but I can't move the camera, otherwise it's going to not work again. So what Miso's doing, what I'll describe to you is she's off camera right now. So what I do is when I lay down at night, I obviously I only sleep on one pillow. I have a queen size bed, so I've got plenty of space. And what I've been doing with Miso since she was literally a kitten since I got her is I would her bed is next to my pillow. She has like her own little cat bed, and it's next to my pillow, and she sleeps on that next to my head every single night. It's very cute. When her mother and I, though her mother is no longer in the picture, but when her mother and I got her when she was a kitten, we would sleep basically like here's the pillows, right? So one side of each bed, and then we would have like maybe a foot of space between our pillows, and then that's where kitten Miso would sleep is between us. Um, and so as she grew older, she just naturally kind of stuck with the bed next to the pillow. She likes it. It's her one of her safe spaces, one of her comfort spaces. So that's what she's doing right now. She's being a little cutie pie, taking a nap. Um, One thing about her that I recently did because I've noticed that she's had like a lot of dry skin. What are we at time wise? Okay, I can't really see with the way the lighting's working, but what I've been doing recently with Miso, the thing about Miso is she's not like a normal cat because she doesn't like toys. Not really. She doesn't really like toys. She doesn't like wet food, or so I think, because every time I get her wet food, she likes it initially, and then she'll stop eating it. She just won't like the first time I put it out. She'll be like, "Oh, this is new," and she'll eat it, and she'll be fine. And then I'll keep putting it out, and she won't have it. She won't do that. But I've noticed that she's getting a lot of like dandruff. Hey, she's just like her father, getting a lot of dandruff. And so I've been doing some research online, typically what people are saying. I do think it's because the season, I noticed it's just happened in the last like 2 weeks, and the season is changing. It's now going from like pretty cold to relatively warm. And so I think she might just be kind of like shedding a coat, and then along with it, some of the dandruff as well. But like one of the things I've been researching and what they say online is to change up her food. Could be that she's not getting enough oil in her diet. So what I started doing is adding some wet food to her diet. She doesn't like toys. She doesn't like wet food. So she's not really eating the wet food, which is kind of a bummer. But I'm like mixing it into her dry food, and that's kind of how she's getting the oil. And then I'm also adding salmon oil because they said add fish oil to her diet as well. So I added some fish oil to her food as well. But again, it's kind of like making it a wet texture, and she doesn't really like that. So I'm trying to like continue to like tend to her the best I can, but also like I think this might just be like a seasonal thing. If you guys have any recommendations, it's not like bad enough dandruff yet that I'm like I don't need to take her to the vet quite yet. But I'm hoping it doesn't get to that point. It's just been in the last like 2 weeks, and it's just something new that I've noticed. So if you guys have any recommendations for cats, or maybe you're a vet tech or something, hit the hit the comments. Let your boy know what to do what to do with his cat, what to do with his daughter. I just want the best for her. But yeah, a lot of people overwhelmingly wanted me to talk about miso. In one episode, I kind of gave you guys a brief rundown of like how it worked out when I got her. So, and I'll just kind of quickly recap that. Um, Basically, I was living with a girlfriend at the time in college. It was just us two. She didn't have a job and she was in school, so she was in school online, so she was just home all day. And so we had the idea of getting a cat. And so we got a cat. And what we ended up doing, the way it worked out is I was working at a lab where I had school up until like 4 or 5. And then I lived kind of close to the local animal shelter. And so one day after, I think it was after class. This was like in November of 2021. I This animal shelter would do a kitten drive every Tuesday. It was like Kitten Tuesday. And so I went in once I was done with school, and I got in probably at like 5 o'clock. They closed at 6. There wasn't Misa was the only cat left. She was the only kitten left. There was another in like a separate cage, but that one was being actively adopted as I got there. And the thing about cats that my mom taught me growing up, because we always had at least two dogs and a cat growing up, because we lived on um, like not farmland, but we lived next to like a pretty big empty field, and then we lived across the street from like a vineyard, like a grape vineyard. And so, I mean, for those of you who know, the Central Valley of California produces a lot of like goods, like a lot of produce, dairy, nuts, fruits, veggies, stuff like that. And so I happen to live across the street from a vineyard. I think it was for the purpose of grapes or like wine grapes or something like that. Pretty big one, pretty expansive. And so because of that, we would get a lot of rodents in our house. So growing up, we always had cats to mitigate the rodents because we would have like gophers in our front yard. That was like the bane of my dad's existence. He hated the gophers because they would dig up the grass or dig up the flower beds or something. And then in the house, we would get mice all the time because we lived next to a field, so we'd have field mice. And so we always had a cat that was an indoor outdoor. It would stay indoors during the night, and then during the day it would go outdoors and hunt around or whatever. But yeah, that was kind of the purpose of the cat. And then as when my parents moved to Idaho, they had like an outdoorsy cat or like a barn cat that's still alive to this day, and she's like best friends with my dad. She like goes everywhere with my dad. He feeds her. He takes like this ultimate care of her, which is funny because like that's not, if you met my dad, like him having like this little cat partner, a tiny little barn cat, but like very like a hunter, like the peak of cat hunter. She is like, she'll find whatever. Like I've seen her take down birds in a tree before. Like she'll climb a tree like an assassin, right? Climbing up. Meanwhile, Miso is the most skittish, anxious little thing. And she even hears a noise, she'll run under my bed, and it's so tough because like I know what she is capable of. I just don't think she has it in her to the confidence and the courage to get out and really tear up the town. Plus, I don't really want her going outside where we're at now because A, there's a lot of traffic, and B, there's a lot of like street cats, like alley cats, like feral cats, and they're pretty tough. I've seen a couple of them walking around without pails, and I don't want her to get hurt because I am a gentle parent and I want only the best for her. But anyways, so growing up, like I said, we had two dogs and a cat. Um, the cat always had a purpose. Oh, and sorry, I had to tie this back to what I was saying. I don't know if you know this about me at this point, but I'm a yapper and I lose my train of thought with just about everything. So chances are, if I have to stop and like, what was I talking about? I apologize. Just please imagine you're having a conversation with like your dumb idiot little brother, or you're listening to a FaceTime of some like dumb idiot that always just has no capability of making a clear, concise statement that goes from A to B and doesn't deviate from the original point. But, and I'm also drinking, so like on top of it, not only can I not make a clear, concise argument or tie back to the original point, but I'm also mumbling, stumbling over my words and constantly forgetting what I was talking about because I am having a beverage. Oh, happy Happy St. Patrick's Day, by the way. Uh, if you're the wee Irish out there, go get yourself a drinky. If you are part of the Irish viewing or listening crowd, I would like to apologize for that accent. I'm not proud of it. I am not proud of it. But you know what? Happy St. Patrick's Day. There goes one of our demographics. Damn it. So anyways, back to the original point. What my mom taught me growing up, because we always had a cat, is when you go to adopt a cat, also adopt, don't shop. Never purchase an animal unless it's like a horse and you're like a horse racer. I've been having this weird desire lately to like have like a deep friendship with a horse. I don't know what it is, but all I want to do is like I really just want to, in the movies when like somebody who has like a deep connection with a horse just like goes up to it and like rests their head on it, and then like its tail is like, and like they don't have to say anything, but the horse is just like, that moment in that movie, the horse movie, where I just really want a deep connection with a horse, which is funny because I'm genuinely afraid of horses. They terrify me. They're big, large animal. I don't know what's going on in their head. They could kick you aggressively with a shoe that has quite literally a steel toe on it. I don't know if you know this about horses. Horseshoes? It's not plastic. All right? It's not made of whatever like plush material that like a pillow pet is made out of. No, that's carbon steel. Not even carbon steel. It's just steel. And it will ruin your afternoon. That is a free nose job if you take a horse hoof to the face. Do horses even have hooves? I don't know. But yeah, I want a deep connection with the horse. What I'm trying to say, folks, that are still somehow listening, that still know the point that I was originally on. What my mom told me growing up when it comes to adopting cats, and again, adopt, don't shop. I want a deep relationship with a horse, not in that way. Secretariat. Is that the cat has to choose you. And what I mean by that is like when you're walking by the cages that are housing the cats, adopt the one that swipes at you because it chose you. Instead of you choosing it, it chose you. That's how you should adopt a cat. That's how you know the cat wants you. Not to say that the cats that don't are undeserving of love, because they are. They might be skittish, they might be shy, maybe they're not having a great day, but like my mom said that like that's how you know it's destiny. When they choose you. And that's exactly what happened with Miso. And obviously I didn't have a choice. She was the only one left. So she better have chosen me. Otherwise I would have walked my candy ass out of there, as my cousin would say. I don't know why he says that. He's also listening. Shout out to my cousin. Love you, buddy. So when so so when I went to adopt Miso, or a kitten, at this kitten drive, not a whole lot of kittens at this kitten drive. They were all gone. They had all been spoken for except for Miso. She was climbing on the cage. Like she was a part of the Assassin's Creed video game series. She was climbing on the cage. The shackles that she was in. She was traversing the side of the cage when I walked up to her, and at that point, they were like, hey, there's two kittens here. The one in the other cage is already spoken for. It's you and this one. Or nothing at all. And me, she was literally sprawled, like this full spread eagle. No, I don't think that's how it works. She was latched onto the side of the cage, right? Midway up. I'm not talking like at the bottom. She was midway up, mid-climb. Mount Cagerist. Mount Kilimanjaro. When I walked by her, and In my head, this, by the way, this is not sponsored by North Face, which I think it's backwards for the purpose of the video, but I don't know. I won't be able to know until post-production. Please, please, for the love of God, just please formulate a sentence from A to B without any deviations. Please. Stop getting distracted. We are 30 minutes into this episode, and I have not covered a single thing that I wanted to talk about. Besides Miso, which, hey, she deserves it. She deserves it. Anyways, Miso's climbing, right, on the side of Mount Kajir. She is climbing on the side of... that's the full extent of the mountains that I know, of the volcanoes that I know, of the mountains that are extensive. I can't think of any others. If it comes to me, I'll make a joke. All right? Mount Cage-Suvius. She's climbing on the side of it. Do you get the picture? And as I walk up to her, finally we get to the climax of this story. As I walk up to her, she swipes at me. Mind you, she's already climbing on the side of the cage. She has to one-arm slide. She doesn't have thumbs. I don't know if you've picked up on this yet. She doesn't have thumbs. She's not one of those cats that has thumbs, which, by the way, those cats have pretty privilege. Purely for the fact that they have thumbs. Which, by the way, not trying to bash them at all, that's basically a raccoon at that point. Because I'm pretty sure raccoons have thumbs. Besides the point, Miso chose me. And then I took her home, right? I took her home with me. I said, you know what? You're coming home with me. And she was 2 months. Technically, they didn't really know exactly when her birth date was. They suspected she was about 2 months old. I don't think that's true. She was really small. I think she was probably closer to like 1 month. Nevertheless, we celebrate. Take a shot every time I say nevertheless. That's number at least 2. Nevertheless, she came home with me. I'm pretty sure we celebrate... I'm not pretty sure. We celebrate her birthday September 24th. That's when they suspected that her birthday was. I don't think that's the case. I think she was a little bit younger than that. She was a tiny... To this day, she's a tiny little thing. I've been around... My roommate's cat is bigger than her. All the cats that I've been around are bigger than her. Except for the barn cat that my parents have. She's a tiny little thing. But like, even then, her and Miso are about the same size. It's really like a battle of Davids. There's no Goliath in that story. Just a couple of Davids. Just a couple of Davids. And so Miso came home with me. And now she sleeps next to me, next to my head every night. Although she still does this thing where it's cold enough still that she sleeps under the covers with me. But I have to be sleeping on my left side, and I have to have one arm on my legs. So my right arm is resting on top of my right side of my body, all the way down to my leg, which I think she likes that because it provides a little bit of extra space. She doesn't like to feel like smothered by the covers, which is fair. She's just like her father. And so I have to have that because it provides a little bit of extra space between her and the covers. And then she sleeps right, she's like little spoon, she sleeps like right where my stomach is. And then for my left arm, I have to have that going in a way that kind of like touches her back, if that makes sense. Like basically the way she kind of sleeps is she wants to be close enough to me that she can either like be next to me, like she sleeps next to my head every night, or touching me. And so that's how when she sleeps under the cover, she touches me. Or I guess like my arm touches her, just so she knows that I'm there, essentially. I think is why she does that. And I recently got a new thing for her where she sheds like crazy. And so I used to have this little brush, which was not, well, it's kind of matching. For those of you on audio only, I'm holding up a brush right now that literally, you can see in the camera, has Miso hairs on it. A little off the top. But yeah, this brush, she just doesn't really like it. She gets to a point where she gets like annoyed with it, so I got a new brush. It's one of those ones that has a button on the back of it, and you click it, and then the I don't know, the needles of the brush for lack of a better term. The arms of the brush, they like unextend and then they go into the brush head, and then all of the hair just kind of falls. It collects in the needles, and then when you unclick it, it all falls. You probably have seen them before. So I recently got that. She really likes that brush. And so I do that. I brush it for at least like 10 minutes a day. I try. Typically, it's at nighttime when she is like resting on my chest and I'm laying down. That's typically when that happens. But yeah, that's kind of an update on Miso. A little bit more of a story. I mean, everybody knows, everybody's seen the TikTok or the video of me speaking to her as a kitten, as I was raising her. I taught her to meow on command simply by meowing back every time she did it, and then eventually I could get a meow out of her by meowing first. Basically, just like speaking back and forth. And I lived alone at this point. I had already broken things off with Miso's mother. And so I lived alone. I didn't have anybody to talk to, so I would just talk to Miso. And that is kind of what forged that bond so strongly. Is that she was there for me when I didn't necessarily have anybody else all the time. But yeah, it's a little bit about Miso. Wow, we cooked on that. Just talked about my cat for 20 minutes. She deserves an extra 20 minutes, but I gotta move on. This not this past weekend, but the weekend before, I went to LA, went to Los Angeles for a couple reasons. Um, One, for those of you who have been listening, I have this long distance boo thing that I've been sent. I've been sending that I there was a there's a girl that lives in LA that I met through a mutual friend, and we have been talking back and forth. I sent her a care package, and you know, I went and visited not only her, but I had a couple of other things. I visited my friends. I went and got lunch with my buddy Grant. He actually asked me to not shout him out, but he when I put on my Instagram story, what should I talk about? He said him, and so I'm talking about him. And I would be remiss to talk about Grant if I also don't talk about LeBron James. Two great people, two great people. And so I went and got lunch with Grant, and that was great. We had a good time, just chatting, catching up on things. And then I was supposed to, when I was there, I was supposed to do two things. Another reason why I was visiting, not only to see friends, but also I was supposed to do like a show, like a podcast type show, which that got canceled. That fell through, which was a real bummer. Even though they asked me to go on, and I gave them dates several months in advance, and was like, "Hey," like 2 weeks prior, we settled on a date, and it was great. And then 2 weeks prior, I was like, "Hey, I'm still gonna come out. I'm not sure. Is you haven't spoken much? Like, are we still doing this?" And then they said they were like, "Oh, sorry, we can't. Essentially, can't do that anymore because of the whatever circumstance." And so that was a bummer because I was like, "All right, well, you reached out to me, and I flew out here for this." So and then also when I was there, I was supposed to get breakfast with my management team. They're based out of LA, with my manager and her assistant, and they canceled essentially, which was kind of a bummer. When I told my mom, this is how I can tell that like people cancel on me quite often. Is when I told my mom that both the podcast and my whatever canceled on me. My mom was like, "Why do people not want to meet you?" And I was like, "Dude, I don't know, I don't know." It just was kind of sad that my mom said that. She was like, "Why don't people ever want to like get to know you?" Um, so it is what it is. Those two things didn't work out, but like when I was there, I had a really good time. Like I said, I stayed I stayed with this girl, and it went so well that that a couple days after I flew back, uh, we kind of had the what are we chat, and then it's funny that like we both said going into um, like we both said throughout this entirety of the us just kind of like chatting and getting to know each other that like neither of us want to do long distance ever again because we had both been through it before and it didn't end great for us. And so when we've seen each other a couple times now in person. She came to New York, and I took the train up to see her for a weekend, and then obviously I flew to LA and stayed with her, and that was a lot of fun. So much fun that like, the feelings got pretty intense and real. Um, and we were confronted with the uh, reality of like, all right, well, it's obvious that we both feel very strongly for each other. And then kind of had the, what are we chat. And then that didn't necessarily go great. Um, as far as like, we kind of had to stop otherwise, because I was still of the mindset that like I can't do long distance. I know myself. I think what the problem with me is last time I did long distance and it didn't work out. I became throughout the course of the long distance relationship, it ruined me financially, mentally, emotionally, physically. I was kind of fine because like, I was in college and it was like I just had to like keep going, you know. But yeah, like I was flying out to see her every 3 weeks, and at this point in college, I was in school full time, working two jobs. Yeah, working part of it I was working two jobs, part of it I was working one job, and it's like to spend money on flights. Flights are not cheap, and so like it ruined me financially. And then the entire time, like I was just all I don't operate well in a long distance relationship because I know myself. If I'm going through something, I want the person there. And if they're going through something, I want to be there for them. And you can't physically do that in a long distance relationship. And that just like ruined me. And then also there was issues with like, some things happened in the relationship, and my family got involved, and it just wasn't good for me to like be torn between two, my family that I cared about and this person that I cared about. And so it didn't end up working out for me. And I was when it ended, when it got to the point where I couldn't keep going with this long distance thing, it quite literally like wrecked me. That was what snowballed into me being an alcoholic. Is was like I had lost so much of myself throughout the entirety of that relationship because of the distance, that like I was now single, I was on my own, I didn't know who I was, I lost what it meant to be me as a person. And I guess like, you know, part of me is nervous that that might happen again. And in talking to my friends about it and like the situation, they kind of gave me great advice. They were like, "You have so much going on. I'm so busy right now with so many things. I have, my engineering job that I got to go out in the field for, and then pretty soon it'll be a once a day out in the field thing for the foreseeable future, as like this one system that we've been a part of the design for is going to become constructed. I have to be there for the oversight for that. And then also, I'm hoping to get promoted. I'm working all these extra hours. I'm a part of all these communities and planning events in the office that like I'm putting myself out there quite a bit, that like I'm hoping to get promoted because I want to raise, especially if I'm moving to New York. I'm going to need all the extra money that I can get, especially with social media. Speaking of social media, on top of my engineering job, I have to, I'm doing all these brand deals now. I'm doing all these brand deals now. I'm writing concepts for these brand deals. I'm losing track of like, okay, I got to submit this on this day. I almost missed a meeting with this one brand that I won't talk about because the ad hasn't been posted yet, hasn't been confirmed. But like I almost missed a meeting because I forgot to like add it to my schedule because I got that going on. And then on top of that, I have the podcast. And so it's like I have all these different things. And then on Sundays, I got to work at the thrift store. And then Saturdays, I'm dedicating to thinking about, I'm posting a TikTok every day, which, yeah, it only takes like 30 seconds to record. But like I'm still thinking for like 15, 20 minutes after I'm done working my engineering job to like come up with an idea, something funny, something relatable, something my audience will like. And it's just a lot. And then on top of that, I'm moving. In 2 months, I got to be out of this place. And so I got all these things. And now I have to consider, all right, I got to downsize. It's going to be New York. I'm not going to have enough space. I got to keep this, and this. I got to get rid of this. How am I going to do that? Where am I going to dispose of it? I got all these things, right? I got all these things going on in my head all the time. And I'm trying to get into shape because, like, I want to be in shape. So I'm going to the gym. I just got all these things. And so I was talking to my friends about it, and they were like, "You have so much going on right now. Why don't you just, you know, be single for a couple more months until you move to New York, and then if you still feel strongly about this person, like maybe that's when you can reconsider doing long distance, which I think is the right thing to do. And me and this girl, we last week about midweek we kind of ended things. We were it was either essentially it was either relationship or nothing, because it's really hard to stay in contact with somebody without building that, without reinforcing that feeling, you know, if that makes sense. And so, and I also don't want to manipulate or feel like I'm using somebody for any purpose that's not healthy. I don't want to be that person. Um, and so essentially, we decided that it would be better for nothing. And so that was a bummer. And so that was a rough couple of days, which is where I didn't really post the past, like, over the last week. I haven't really posted more than like one or two things, which, if you guys haven't picked up on this now, I try to do at least every other day. For the most part, on Instagram, it's every other day, and on TikTok, it's every day. Because, like, I still have to build these platforms that I'm on. And so that I didn't really post a lot. I was listening to like Jeff Buckley, and I was just sad at the gym. Like I had to like end workouts because I was like, you know, rehashing memories and listening to sad music. And then we talked again yesterday actually, and we were just kind of like checking in with each other, seeing how we were doing. And basically, we decided that we would still stay in contact because like nothing is tough. To like have an ultimatum is tough. That's like a tough thing to put on ourselves, especially when we both have so much going on. That like essentially where we settled was like we would stay in contact with each other's life. If we felt the need to like visit each other, we would, but we're not going to put too much pressure, and we're not going to like, you know, we're not going to make these unrealistic expectations for ourselves. And then if we continue to feel that way, then maybe we can pursue something down the line. But to just not put so much pressure and so much of like we have to make a decision now, when both of our futures are kind of unrealized, if that makes sense. So that was LA. You know, that was a lot of LA. I will say this one thing about airports. All right, okay. Are we listening? Are we listening to what people are saying to others? Do we have any sort of social awareness? Because I get it, not everybody flies. I totally understand that part. I completely understand if you are unfamiliar with how airports operate and work. But when you're in line, right, and there's somebody in front of you that gets told something from the airport staff who already hate their lives, let's be honest. They have to deal with so many just things throughout the day. They have to deal with so many things, and I get it, that's their job, but like that sucks and that deters you, especially like if it's 11 p.m. or 5 a.m. We're tired, they're tired. Let's make it easy on everybody. Just listen to the people in front of you. Listen, be aware of your surroundings, because there's people at an airport that bother me so much. It's when the people in front of them get told things, and then now it's their turn, and then the airport staff that already just hate their lives have to re-say it, and they're like, and now they have to say it again, and they say it with an attitude, and then the people that like they told it to have an attitude back to them, and then there's just like this tension in the air. Just listen, all right? Like when the airport staff say, "Hey, laptop's out of the bag," and then you get up there, and this isn't like a language barrier either. It's very clearly like they both speak English. You know, they both speak the same language. And then they get up there and then they put all their stuff in the bag, and then the airport staff is to be like, "Sir or ma'am, whoever, do you have any electronic devices in the bag?" And at this point, their box that has their belongings is almost sucked into the abyss that is the 3D scanner. And they have to be like, "Oh yeah," and they have to be like, "Oh, I have a laptop in my bag." And then now they gotta hold everybody up because they gotta pull it back, they gotta yank it back, and then rip out that HP or Dell or whatever, that unsupervised Dell. They gotta put that back in a tray. Also, people that stand up early on the airplane, I want to give you a knuckle sandwich. For what are you standing up so early for? How can you be that excited to stand up? I get it. It's a long flight, a couple hours. Maybe that mid-flight ginger ale didn't do you in, and you're just antsy to stand up. I get it, but just I want to punch you in the face. You're it's giving hall monitor over zealous, excitable hall monitor. Stop doing that. You're bothering me. And then people at the airport, they're like scanning tickets, right? And at this point, I'm just complaining. And feel free to skip through this if this bothers you too, or if this doesn't bother you. If you're like this is a privileged take, I apologize. I typically have to fly a lot because like my family lives in Idaho, my friends live all over. I get invited to events, and so I gotta. It's a very privileged take, but it just bothers me when people don't listen. When people don't have the social awareness to listen to what has been told to those around them. And it's not like, oh, I'm 30 feet away. It's like, hey, I'm right next to you, and I'm not going to take whatever advice this poor airport staff member who has to say this a billion times every day is going to say to the person right next to you. I'm not going to listen. And it's not like they don't have headphones in. They're just not paying attention. And now they're holding everybody up. That bothers me. That's one of my pet peeves, when people don't listen to other people, what is told of them. I'm going to get off my soapbox because I'm feeling myself getting heated right now, and I can already imagine the comments. This is a privileged take, and I apologize. I don't mean to be annoying and obnoxious. But man, just listen. Listen to those around you. This was another thing y'all wanted to know about my job, my engineering job. So I've talked about this. I made a TikTok about it. I'm an environmental engineer. I got my degree in geological engineering from the University of Nevada, Reno. I got my engineering training certificate in civil engineering, so I have basically a foot in both doors. My degree is essentially a half degree of geology and civil engineering, and then my EIT certificate is a certification that says I'm an engineer in training certified for civil engineering. Now my job does environment. My job is based around the purpose of environmental engineering, with a specialization in site investigation and remediation management. Now, what that means, because that's a lot of big words, and engineers are great at big words, but they don't know how to explain them. What that means is the projects that I work on are for the purpose of environmentally sites that need to be remediated, whether that's earthwork, remediation systems. They have some sort of obligation. The client has some sort of obligation to the EPA or a governing body or the general public to remediate their site because there's been a spill, a contamination, there's some sort of environmental issue or concern. And that's where we get brought in. We provide consulting experience that's based around that. That's why I'm out in the field all the time, because like a lot of these places you have to go out and you have to see, you have to do a real in-person investigation. You can only do so much computer work. And yeah, it's a consulting job. Typically I would say I consistently work more than 40 hours a week. That's pretty much a job standard when you're in honestly any field, you know. I would say I typically work around 45 hours a week, which is fine. I work long days, and I would like to think I'm good at my job. I would like to think maybe I'm not good at my job because my background was not in environmental remediation. My background's in geological and civil. Now, those can be applied to environmental, but when you're dealing with chemical contaminations, when you're dealing with remediation systems that require certain calculations and certain thought processes, that's not built into me. So that's why I have a lot of issues with imposter syndrome, because I get put on these projects where it's very complicated. It's very complicated language. It's a lot of acronyms. It's chemicals that I have no idea what I'm working with. 99% of my job is learning as you go. It's getting put on projects that you have no background in, and then you learn how to do it as you're working on the project, and then you never see that kind of work ever again. It's very frustrating. It's very rewarding work because it's environmentally conscious, it's environmental remediation. So what you're doing is you're changing the environment for the betterment of the people, or for the better, because a client has to, because the environmental protection agency is telling them they have to, or they have to meet certain um, environmental requirements. You have to produce water at this level. You have to remediate the soil to this level because it's a health and safety hazard. So that's a lot of my job, and balancing that with, because another question was like, how do you balance that and social media and podcast and a social life? A lot of it is like, I try to separate my work life and my personal life. So when I'm with my friends in my personal life, I don't TikTok. I don't I don't record videos. I try not to be obsessed with engineering. I try not to open my email because I'm with my friends. That's my personal life. They deserve my full attention, because to give them anything less is to show them that they're not as important as other things in my life, when that's not the case. I want my friends to feel as though I prioritize them because their business is my business. I want them to know that I care about them. Now, when I'm at my engineering job, my sole attention is on my engineering job. I try not to. I've had it happen before where, like, you know, my social media and my engineering job overlap, where like I have to post a video, I have to post a brand deal at a certain time, and it's while I'm working. And that's something you have to balance and stuff like that. Um, but like, I try to emphasize, when I as soon as I clock off, whenever that is, 4, 5, 6 p.m., 7 p.m., sometimes 8 p.m., sometimes, for my engineering job, clock off. Whenever I finish work for the day, I try and wipe it, not wipe it from my memory, but I try and fully decompress, fully unplug, as some people say, at my engineering job. I think that's healthy. I think it's well balanced. It's good for me. I will say I take work home with me a lot, even though I work from home, in the sense that, like, I've had many nights where I can't sleep because I'm on a project and I'm trying to think of ways to, I'm stressed because, like, oh, I haven't done this, I haven't done this, I got to do this tomorrow. How am I gonna tackle this? Is the expectation this? This is something I'm unfamiliar with, and that sucks. And I try and breathe and try not to stress too much, but sometimes it's overwhelming, and it can take a lot out of you. It's stressful. There's a reason why I have a lot of gray hairs. You know, part of it's genetic, but part of it is because of my job. But it's tough to balance because, like I said, I'm working 45 hours a week, typically minimum, for my engineering job. Sundays, a portion of my day is reserved for the vintage store. Um, Sunday nights, that's always dedicated to FaceTiming my family. Um, which, I want to check in with them. Those are not short, quick 5-minute FaceTimes. Those are 30, 45 hour long FaceTimes with my family to check in with them, see how they're doing. Um, Monday nights typically are like podcasting nights. That's when I conduct the podcasts. Tuesday nights are typically conducting the podcasts if I haven't done it on Monday. I try and go to the gym for an hour, at least 4 times a week. Saturdays are typically my free days. So that's when I try to plan things with my friends. My friends are very active. They're very involved in my lives. I try to be involved in their life. During the week, obviously, I'm working. And then, when I finish my job for the day, whether that's at 5 or 6, I try and record a TikTok. I try and think about TikToks throughout the week, especially when I'm driving. That's when my creative time happens. Um, it's it's a lot. It's a lot to balance. It's a lot to, and I'm not gonna say that, like, TikToking is difficult work, but, like, I do have, in my mind, I do have a standard to uphold, in the sense that, like, I have an audience that listens. I have an audience that actively engages. I want to make content for, myself, that, like, I enjoy and think is funny, but also at the same time I have, 1 point whatever, however many followers that, like, I also have an obligation to them to make them laugh. There will never be a day when I make something for myself that's so selfish and so stupid that like I don't consider how my audience thinks about it, because I owe you guys content. I am a creator for the purpose of entertaining. So like I do have to think like, will people like this? Will the people that follow me, you know, enjoy this? Because at some point I am a creator for the purpose of entertaining others, I guess is my point. So it's a lot to balance. That was a big thing that people were asking, like, you have three jobs technically. Four if you consider the podcast. So yeah, essentially how do you balance that? How do you do it? And you know, you just kind of do it. You just kind of have to continue doing it. I might make this podcast like an hour and 20 because I didn't record one last week. So I'm gonna keep going because I got a lot of people asking, how I'm doing and all that. Um, People were asking about my another thing about my engineering job, because it's environmental and because some of the clients we work with are, pretty popular, well known. They don't always want their business being out there for the world. So it's like people ask me, hey, like, what do you do? Can you be more specific about like where you are out in the field or what exactly it is you do and for who and who you work with and all that? And it's like, I can't because part of my job is some sort of confidentiality between us, the company I work for, and our clients because, like, there are sites throughout America, throughout the world, globally that, like, there are contaminations in areas that you wouldn't know that there were contaminations and like, there is some sort of like, you don't want to induce any sort of mass hysteria to the crowds thinking like, oh, there's been a contamination, because 9 times out of 10 the contamination is not, it's controlled, it's not detrimental to the public. So there is a bit of confidentiality, so I can't really talk about some of the things I do, some of the specifics. I can give you like types of work I do. I can tell you about like, but like somebody was asking, take us in the field with you for a day. Do a day in my life where you're out in the field. I can't do that. A lot of the sites that we go to when we are out in the field, there's no phone policy, because can you imagine you're at a active remediation site and something goes awry and you're scrolling on your phone through whatever TikTok? That would be not good. So I do apologize that I can't give you more further specifics besides that. Um, but yeah, that's a little bit about my job. And then some people wanted me to talk about my college life. Um, my college life was not super fun in terms of like I didn't really do that much. So when I went to college, I had just gotten into a relationship with a girl that I went to college with. We went to the same high school. We found out we were going to the same college. A relationship developed, and then we started dating right before we got to college. And then we didn't really do much the first year. We just kind of hung around with each other, so I didn't have a ton of friends. And then, we broke up like right as my sophomore year started. And then, sophomore year, I was working a lot. I was paying for college, so like I was working two jobs. I didn't really stay in contact with any of the people that I lived in my dorm with. So like if I did, I would like maybe hang out with them, but I didn't really have friends outside of my job, and I was working a lot. And so that was kind of my shindig, for lack of a better term, was like I would work, I would hang out with my friends, my coworkers, I'd make money, and then I'd go home. And I would hang out with my cousin. I lived with my cousin. We would hang out. We would watch shows together. We would watch movies together. And that was that. And I was fine with that. I was going to the gym a lot. I wasn't really social on campus. I don't really talk to a ton of people. Um, I'm not really social when it comes to being. I'm not like a public. I'm not good at being social in public. Um, at this time, that's when like my TikTok career kind of started. Was like early 2020. Um, Actually, no. So wasn't very social. Besides, outside of my job and outside of hanging around my cousin. And then, COVID started, and then there was nothing to do. There were no parties. I didn't go to parties anyways, but there were no bars to go to. Gym was closed, so there wasn't much to do. And then, I started TikToking because there was nothing else to do. And then that was fun. I started getting a little bit of traction on there and clout. And then when I first started out on TikTok, I was a bit of a dick because the popularity got to my head, and I lost my friends because of it. Because I was like, oh, I, to put it into perspective, the kind of ass that I was. At one point, I told my friends, "Oh, I'm on the phone with a model," while I was hanging out with them. Like I was hanging out with my friends, and then I took a call because I was like, I thought they would be like, "Oh wow, if I could be like, if I was like, oh, I'm just on the phone with a model." It's just like dickish, cocky behavior, a little dickhead, cocky behavior. Because the fame got to me. Because at that point, I had never done anything. I'm from a small town. Nobody really has had, like social media clout like this, and so I didn't know how to react to it. And I did not react very well. It's very cocky, and I lost my friends because of it. The friends that I had made up to that point, and then you know, um, eventually the cockiness subsided because I was like, all right, I'm not all that in a bag of sticks. And then that's when like the imposter syndrome, and then you know, I just social media. I became mentally just not well because I was comparing myself to people I was seeing. I was constantly telling myself I wasn't good enough. Eventually, I cared too much about the numbers, and I was like, "All right, this TikTok didn't do good. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna lose followers, stuff like that." And then, and then after that, I got into a long distance relationship that we talked about earlier. That didn't go well, and then I didn't have any friends throughout that entire relationship, and then we broke up like 3 months before my graduation, like 3 months, like 2.5 months before my graduation, and then I was forced with, all right, I have to make friends. I have 2.5 months left of college. At this point, I had not had a traditional college experience because I was in a relationship where I didn't have friends to begin with, and then COVID, and then I lost all my friends because I was being a dickhead, and then I got into another relationship where I didn't have any friends because it was a long distance situation, and just there was issues with that. And so I have 2.5 months, and I'm like, all right, I got to make friends. And then I made friends with all the people that I had been going to my classes with for 4 years now. They turned out to be great people. I just never talked to them because I never, I don't know, felt the need or just wanted to. And because I wasn't a friendly person, I just didn't speak to people. And then they were great. They turned out to be some of the best people I've met and some of the best friends that I've made to this day, and still stay in contact with some of them. And so that was kind of my college experience. It wasn't great. I mean, it was great in the sense that like the friends that I did make, my cousin, the friends that I made towards the end of my college career were great people. Even the friends that I made during my college career were great people. I just didn't treat them well, and so yeah, but like for the most part, I didn't have like a fun or traditional college experience, which is fine. I mean, my freshman year when I first got to college. My sister and my cousin were both at college with me. We went to the same one, so that was a lot of fun. Like I got to hang around with them, but they were both very busy. And so like we went to like basketball games together, and that was a lot of fun. But yeah, I didn't really. And plus, I was as an engineer, as an engineering student, as I'm sure all engineering students, I feel like I all engineers are very arrogant to a certain degree because they think that they're better than everybody else because they're like it's like doctors, obviously doctors are very respected, but like it comes a point where doctors are like, oh, I'm a doctor, you know or I'm a lawyer. Same thing with engineers. We're the same way. We're all built the same way. We're all a little bit wired to think that we are more important than other people because our job is hard, but I don't know, it's not a healthy way to think. It's very arrogant, just rude kinds of ways of thinking. But as an engineering student, obviously we have a lot of difficult tests and homework, and you got to dedicate so many hours to studying and dedicate so many hours to homework and all these other things. So I didn't really have a fun college experience to say the least. But yeah, what should we end on? We'll end on something fun. Um, Advice for those wanting to get into social media. That's another one people wanted me to talk about. Um, Keep posting. You never know when you're gonna blow up. I had the fortune of essentially my first video blowing up, and it was just me saying I had a micro penis. So, so, yeah. Um, you got to keep posting, even if it's post content that you like. Don't I don't know. Don't not be yourself. I talk about wanting to make content for my audience, but at the same time, I'm still being myself. I got myself to the point that I'm at. So like, why stray away from that? Be yourself. Be your authentic self. Um, Follow trends. I'm not really a trend following kind of guy, but you know, uh, it helps. I happen to get an audience that I don't necessarily need to follow the trends, which is fine. People more or less just want my audience tends to be fine with just me talking, which is strange. I don't know why they would waste my time. I don't know why you guys waste my time, but or no, oh my god. I don't know why you guys waste your time with me is what I'm trying to say. I don't know why you guys bother. What I just feel like I'm such a wreck all the time, and all the things that I talk about just make me sound like a boring and not fun and dumb person. And for some reason, you guys still want to listen, and I really appreciate that. But yeah, just be yourself. Keep posting, even if you get bored or underwhelmed, overwhelmed. Post what you like what you post. That's what I would say. There was a long time where I was posting things that I just hated, and if social media felt like a task at that point, which to be fair, it is a business for me now. Like it is very well like a task that I tell myself, all right, I should keep posting. I should post one today. I should post one tomorrow. Um, but I don't let it feel so much like a task that I don't feel like doing it on certain days. There's never a day that goes by where I'm like, you know what, if I don't post today, that's fine. But like, maybe I should. And if nothing comes up, if I don't think of anything funny, then so be it. Um, but yeah, you keep posting. Even if your posts bomb, use a lot of hashtags when you're beginning. That's what I did. And then eventually you'll get to a point where you don't really have to use hashtags. Figure out what your audience is, who you want your audience to be, and then cater your videos towards that audience. My audience quickly turned into women and gay men. Totally fine. I would argue that I am essentially a woman. I was raised by my sisters. I you know I do very feminine things, and you know what? My audience reflects that, and that's totally fine. I'm totally okay with that, and I would not be here without y'all, and I appreciate that so much. But figure out who your audience is, cater your videos to them. Um, Keep posting. Just post and post and post. Even if you hate them, well, don't post something you hate, but at the same time, find out what you like, find out what you love. If that's a day in my life, post a day in my life. Make it 2 minutes long, make it 30 seconds. Doesn't matter. Just keep posting. And then also stay in touch with your audience. When I was starting out, I was like doing TikTok lives and like interacting with my audience that I had gained. And that really helped because like I got to meet people that were so supportive, and I got to meet people that were so nice to me, and I'm undeserving of it. And to this day they still follow me. To this day we still chat here and then, and they are so supportive. And I if you I mean, if you've made it this far, I mean, it's an hour and 15 minutes into the podcast, I would argue that you are the support that I don't deserve. So like if people comment, like it, say, hey, thanks so much for the feedback, interact with them, because that's going to help build a really strong audience, people that care about you, people that want to get invested in your life. And thankfully, like I had the fortune of getting to know some great people. I've had the fortune of interacting with people that are so supportive, and I'm undeserving, and it's very nice. And I'm you know if people care enough about you that they want to react with your posts and they want to follow you along your journey, they deserve your attention, you know? And when I was starting out, I tried to give it to them. I tried to respond to comments. When I would go live, I would remember names. I would be like, "Oh my God, you were here last time." There's still names to this day that, in the off chance that I go on TikTok live, I still remember them. There's Michael Elliott and Emmy Colleen or Emma Colleen, Emmy Har, and um, oh no, their names, the other names are escaping me. But when I see them in TikTok, those are ones that I remember off the top of my head. And they've been around in my life for 5 years now, and I still remember them because of their support, even day one. Um, and it means a lot. So like, it means a lot to you, but it also like developing that like audience creator relationship is important for them as well, because like they deserve it. If you know, like if they want to partake in your life, you should partake in their life to some degree as well. So like, I don't know. Um, I'm not necessarily. I don't. I'm not a professional in this industry. I'm not. I'm not an influencer. I couldn't. You know, there's certain things that I can't do that other creators are very very good at. I can't write sketches. I can't do certain comedy. I don't follow the trends. I don't know celebrities. I don't. You know, there's a lot of things that I don't do. There's not a lot of things that I don't do well. So I probably am not qualified to give advice, but if I could say anything, you got to start. Just start and post. Post what you want. Gain an audience. Figure out who your audience is, and then try to gain them. Try to interact with them. Show them that you care about them. You know, and then expand. Expand not like as a conqueror, but like expand. Do new things. Expand your audience by doing new things. You know, I do day in my life videos now sometimes, and that gets the people that like the day in the life videos. I do brand deals now because some people like saying brand deals. But yeah, figure out who your audience is and cater in the sense to them that like you're still yourself, you're still authentic, but like, you know, they deserve content that they like. You know, they deserve to be treated with respect and um, you know, they deserve to be taken seriously and they deserve content that they're going to like. So, figure out how to cater to them while also being authentic to yourself is what I would say. And with that, hour 17 minutes. Sorry, my ring light is covering the countdown or whatever the timer that I have going. But yeah, hour and 17-minute video. I hope you guys enjoy. Sorry for this. Ginny Weasley is now bone dry. It's only 8 o'clock. Oh my god, I need to go to sleep. I gotta FaceTime my sister first. I wasn't able to FaceTime her yesterday, so I'll do that before I go to bed. But yeah, I just want to say I thank you guys so much. I love you all. I'm so excited for all the things that I have planned in the future. I'm excited for moving to New York. I'm hoping that I will continue to build a relationship with y'all and continue to post things that you guys like and care about. And yeah, if I can just be honest with you, if you had 23 bad hours today, I hope that the hour you spent with me, hey, I hope it was a happier hour. I love you all. Thank you so much. Good night.